This story begins with the 2019 general elections. Two major political parties were competing in this election: Conservative Party, known as Tories, and the Labour Party. Boris Johnson led the Conservative Party, while Jeremy Corbyn led the Labour Party. The Conservative Party won this election with a landslide victory. The House of Commons has 650 seats in total, with 326 being the majority. The Conservative Party gained 365 seats in this election, while the Labour Party received 202. As a result, Boris Johnson was elected Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. But why did Boris Johnson have to quit 3 years later? Why did United Kingdom have 3 Prime Ministers in 2 months? Liz Truss, the UK's next Prime Minister, resigned after only 44 days in the office. Why are the Prime Ministers changing so quickly? What are the United Kingdom's economic and political crisis? What's up everyone, and welcome to our YouTube and Facebook channel. If you are watching our channel for the first time, please consider subscribing, and if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up. And now let me tell you the rise of Rishi Sunak and fall of Boris Johnson. Rishi Sunak of the British Conservative Party was named Prime Minister of United Kingdom on October 24, 2022. He did not win the election. Instead, he was elected Prime Minister by his party. But first, we chat about why did Boris Johnson have to quit 3 years later. There were a number of causes for this. Simply stated, Boris Johnson had lost the trust of the public as well as his party. His problems began in November 2021. An MP of his party, Owen Paterson, was being suspended for breaching the rules of lobbying. Boris whipped his party members to prevent the suspension. The whip system is essentially a method of disciplining party members so that if something is being submitted to the vote, it assures that every member of the party votes for what the party wants. The public was skeptical, wondering why Boris Johnson would wish to protect a corrupt individual. This was Boris Johnson's first accusation. The second allegation occurred on 30th of November 2021, when the initial report on the Partygate scandal was made public. According to the claim, a staff member in Prime Minister's office was partying and holding gathering while the rest of London was under lockdown. This became known as Partygate on 7th December 2021. In the Partygate scandal, there came a fresh development. Allegra Stratton, the press secretary of the Prime Minister's office, was shown in a film criticizing the parties in the tapes. This released footage put her under pressure to resign from her post. Meanwhile, Boris Johnson take a third blow in Wallpapergate scandal. The Conservative Party was fined £17,800 by the UK Election Commission. Why were they fined? Because when Prime Minister Boris Johnson rebuilt the residence of the Prime Minister, he did not register the gifts he had received. The renovation of the Prime Minister House cost £200,000 in total. However, the public grant was only £30,000 for this. On January 10, 2022, a fresh development in the Partygate scandal was announced. Martin Reynolds, Boris Johnson's private secretary, had his email stolen. An email demonstrates that Downing Street personnel held a party during the lockdown. According to this email, 100 individuals were invited to a party at Prime Minister's residence while the country was still under lockdown. It was then found that Boris Johnson attended this gathering too. The media picked up on this story and Boris Johnson was forced to respond. Boris Johnson apologized to public, claiming he assumed it wasn't a party and mistook it for a work gathering. Friends, it is interesting that in United Kingdom, the Election Commission acts fearlessly and independently against the party and finds them for their wrongdoing, while the media is free to reveal scandals. Furthermore, their police department conducted an independent inquiry into Partygate scandal. In April 2022, after their investigation, the Metropolitan Police fined Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak for attending Boris Johnson's birthday party while the country was in lockdown. I mentioned Rishi Sunak here because Rishi Sunak was the finance minister while Boris Johnson was the PM. As if these controversies weren't enough, on 25th May 2022, another blow was inflicted. Sue Gray, a civil servant, has published a fresh comprehensive report on the Partygate scandal. Multiple parties were hosted in Prime Minister's office and residence, according to the report. In the end, roughly 30 to 40 people attended, including Boris Johnson. Then there was this event on Prime Minister's birthday, for which he is now being fined. The politicians became so drunk at these gatherings that they began raising noises and fighting with the security and cleaning staff. One in June 2020, Helen McNamara, the head of ethics in the Cabinet Office, brought a karaoke machine. Boris Johnson's public reputation had fallen by June. His party's leaders were withdrawing their support as well. There is a confidence vote in which 41% of Conservative Party MPs vote to fire Boris Johnson. It was humiliating that 41% of his party's MP did not support him. However, Boris Johnson stayed in the Prime Minister's office and maintained his post. Another blow was given to Boris then. The new deputy chief hired by him, Chris Pincher, was proven to have sexually abused 2 persons. He resigned on June 30th due to the shame. When asked about the claims, Boris Johnson stated he had no knowledge of them. However, further investigation by the media found that Boris Johnson was aware of these claims as early as 2019. Boris Johnson's government ministers lost patience when this news leaked. They had enough of it. They stated that they would not continue as long as Boris Johnson was Prime Minister. They did not want a Prime Minister like that. Rishi Sunak has resigned as Finance Minister. Sajid Javid resigned from the office of the Health Secretary. 36 MPs resigned from their positions in the cabinet during the next 24 hours. If there will be no one to run the government, how can it continue on? Boris Johnson had no choice but to quit on the 7th of July. He announced his resignation as Prime Minister.
So I want to say to the millions of people who voted for us in 2019, many of them voting Conservative for the first time, thank you for that incredible mandate.
This is where Liz Truss joined our story. Queen Elizabeth died in September 2022 at a tough period for the United Kingdom. Inflation was out of control due to the war in Ukraine, an economic crisis in the country due to Brexit. The party's reputation was in jeopardy. Scotland was threatening to stage a referendum. It may separate from the United Kingdom. Most of the challenges encountered by the UK presently is really credited to the 2016 Brexit. Brexit was simply a decision when the UK decided that it would no longer be a part of the European Union. The other significant story tonight is the global repercussions of the British referendum. It was a difficult decision because of the widespread pro-Brexit campaigning. False accusations were made. First and foremost, social media scandals revealed how individuals were manipulated into voting for Brexit. It was promised that roaming rates in the UK would not rise following Brexit, but they did. After Brexit, many was promised cheaper food, but the grocery prices climbed. Fisheries were a crucial issue in the Brexit negotiations. 90% of those working in fishing industry voted in favor of Brexit. However, as their trading relationship with the European Union was broken, their fisheries collapsed. The majority of those who voted in favor of Brexit now regret their decision. But returning to our subject, following Boris Johnson's departure, the Conservative Party held election to select the next Prime Minister. The procedure is basically that the new leader needs to come up with the support of 100 MPs. If they obtain 100 MPs to support them, the party choose among the members with the required support, where the party members vote to choose their leader. Following Boris' resignation in July 2022, 2 leaders emerged, Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss. Tories held online voting among the party members, and Liz Truss won the 57% votes. As a result, Liz Truss became the next Prime Minister of United Kingdom in September. Due to so many crises, Liz Truss had to carry many tasks. She offered a fresh proposal on 23rd September, promising to restore UK's economy. She presented a massive tax cut package. Tax cuts that were unprecedented in the last 50 years were announced by her. The plan was to utilize trickle-down economics, that by offering tax breaks to the wealthy, the gains would eventually flow down to the common people. This idea was a flop. Everyone understands by now that trickle-down economics does not work. The value of British pound dropped as soon as she disclosed her intention. It hit an all-time low. Interest rates have gone up. Liz Truss, Chancellor of Czechia, Kwasi Kwarteng, was by her side as she announced her plan. On October 14th, she blamed Kwasi Kwarteng totally, and he was removed from his position. Jeremy Hunt was the next Chancellor, former Foreign Secretary. As soon as he became Chancellor, he reversed what Liz Truss had promised. People believed that Jeremy Hunt was in charge of the country. Disputes occurred between Jeremy Hunt and Liz Truss. Liz Truss' image took a devastating decline among the public and her party members. In the opinion poll regarding this, only 10% of people actually approved of Liz Truss' leadership. 80% of the participants had a bad view of this. This rating was so low that when Boris Johnson left, his rating increased. She went down in history as the least popular Prime Minister in the United Kingdom. Liz Truss was ousted from her position by 55% of her party's members. There was a loud and chaotic parliament session on October 19. Liz Truss was forced to quit the following day, on October 20th. What happened in this parliament session? The Labour Party wanted to present a new law in parliament on October 19th. The law banned fracking. Fracking is a controversial method of extracting oil from the ground. Because it causes groundwater contamination, it increases water pollution and has a negative influence on the environment as a whole. This is a matter of the environment. The Labour Party sought to introduce legislation that would entirely prohibit fracking in the United Kingdom. The Conservative Party considered not only the environmental implication of this law, but also the fact that if the Labour Party received a large number of votes on it, it may be bad for their party's image. They could not afford to lose the election because doing so would give the impression that Parliament has lost faith in their party. They didn't want their party to lose power. As a result, the Conservative Party issued a whip requiring all Conservative Party's MP to vote against the mayor. It was hard, three-line whip. A three-line whip is reserved for the most critical whips. It was so vital that it had to be mentioned 3 times. The Minister of Climate Change announced at the end of the debate that fracking proposal will not be recognized as a confidence vote. This raised an uproar among Conservative Party's MP. They allege that they overlooked the environment and voted against the bill in order to defend their political party. And now that the vote wasn't being classified as a confidence motion, they could vote for whoever they wanted. Among the confusion and uncertainty, numerous Conservative Party politicians were upset because they were allegedly manhandled and forced into voting according to Liz Truss' demand. Liz Truss resigned after this parliament session. The Conservative Party was worried about their chances in the upcoming general election due to party's low image among the public and numerous scandals and the leadership changes within the party. After Liz Truss' resignation, the party needed to choose a new prime minister, and the leader needed to receive the approval of at least 100 MPs. Rishi Sunak was the first to reach this threshold, while Boris Johnson and Penny Mordaunt failed to receive the required number of nominations. As a result, Rishi Sunak was declared the next Prime Minister. Rishi Sunak's appointment as Prime Minister was met with celebration by some Indians in India due to his Indian heritage. However, he faces many challenges as the UK is facing various crises, including a falling currency value, rising inflation, the impact of the Ukraine war and Brexit, and a declining reputation of Conservative Party. The world is closely watching to see how Rishi Sunak will address these issues as the finance minister in Boris Johnson's government. Some people in the UK have a negative perception of Rishi Sunak due to recent events within the Conservative Party and the fact that he is the wealthiest member of Parliament. There are calls for general election as the public lack trust in Conservative Party. Rishi Sunak has a net worth of £730 million, which he acquired through his own business success and marriage to a daughter of an Indian IT billionaire, making him one of the wealthiest prime ministers. Some people have questioned whether he will be able to understand and address the problems faced by ordinary citizens. It remains to be seen what decision he will make and whether he will be able to improve UK's situation. However, this political crisis can be seen as a sign of healthy democracy in the UK, where the media is independent and able to expose scandals. The Election Commission can take action against parties. The police can find the Prime Minister, and politicians within the party can challenge their leaders' action. While there are instances of corruption in UK politics, there is an internal democracy that allows for this accountability. This is something that everyone needs to learn. Thank you for watching our video on Rishi Sunak and the current political situation in the UK. We hope you found the information interesting and informative. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe our channel. Your support helps us continue to create and share valuable content. We appreciate your viewership and look forward to sharing more with you in the future. Thanks again for watching.